Your parents bought a house on one income. You can't afford one on two. They had one person working and money left over. You have two people working and you're drowning in debt. Your grandparents raised four kids on a factory wage. You're struggling with one kid on two professional salaries. Something broke between their generation and yours, and it wasn't you. It wasn't your work ethic. It wasn't your spending habits. It was the entire economic foundation beneath your feet. This is the story of how working twice as hard left you with half as much. Welcome to the two-income trap. Step back to 1970. Dad kisses Mom goodbye, heads to his job at the plant or the office or the store. Mom stays home with the kids. That's just how it was for most families. Not because it was enlightened, it wasn't. Not because women didn't want careers, many did, but because economically it worked. One income paid the bills. All of them. Let's talk numbers. Median family income in 1970, about $9,870. Median home price, $23,450. Do the math. That house cost 2.4 times their annual income. They saved for a few years, put 20% down, and the mortgage payment was manageable. Tight, but manageable. Picture that grocery bill. $75 a week for a family of four. That mortgage payment, $300 a month. That car payment, $80. Insurance, maybe $60 a month. Add it all up, they're spending about half their income on the absolute necessities: housing, transportation, food, utilities. The other half? That's breathing room. That breathing room meant savings, real savings, not "I've got $500 in checking savings," like 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in the bank. It meant the furnace breaks and they just call the repair guy. No panic, no calculations, no "can we afford this?" It just gets fixed. It meant the kids need braces. Okay. The car dies. They buy another one. Someone wants to take a college class. Sure. Vacation to the lake? Why not? Not because they were rich, they weren't, but because the system had margin built in, space between income and expenses, room to breathe. Now let's be honest, this setup had massive problems. Women were often stuck at home even if they wanted careers. Gender roles were rigid and suffocating. Opportunities were limited. This isn't about romanticizing the past, but economically, for the average family, one income covered the basics and then some. Remember that, because that's what we're comparing to. And here's the crucial part nobody talks about. That single-income family had an actual, functional backup plan. Dad loses his job? Devastating, scary as hell. But Mom could enter the workforce. She had that option. She could take a job, maybe not a great one, maybe not a career, but a paycheck while Dad searched for something new. That flexibility was the hidden safety valve in the whole system.
Fast forward to the 1980s and 1990s. Major cultural shift happening. Women are fighting for equality in the workplace. Glass ceilings are being challenged. Career opportunities opening up. This is progress. This is good. This is necessary. And yet, something else is happening underneath all that. Something nobody's talking about. The economic landscape is shifting. Here's what everyone thought. Two incomes means twice the money, twice the security, twice the opportunity to build wealth. The math seems simple. One income got you this lifestyle. Two incomes should get you twice that lifestyle, right? That's what everyone assumed. That's what the magazine said. That's what the financial advisors promised. But here's the thing about markets. They adapt. And not always in the way you want. When dual-income families became common, something unexpected happened. The entire cost structure of American life began to change, and it happened so slowly, so gradually, nobody noticed until it was too late. Think about buying a house. You're competing with other families for limited housing in good neighborhoods. In 1970, you're competing against other single-income families. Your neighbor has $30,000 to spend. You have $30,000 to spend. The family across town has $30,000 to spend. Everyone's playing with roughly the same chips. The house in the good school district sells for $30,000 because that's what the market can bear. But then dual income families enter the picture. Now you're bidding $30,000 on that house, but your neighbor? They're bidding $60,000 because they have two incomes. They can qualify for a bigger mortgage. They have more cash for a down payment. And guess what? They get the house every time. So what do? What does every family do? You send your spouse to work too. Not because you want to, not because you're pursuing a career dream, because you have to, because otherwise you can't compete. You can't get the house. You can't get into the good school district. You can't give your kids what every other kid has. You have no choice. Now you have $60,000. Problem solved, right? You can compete now. Except everyone else just did the same thing. Every family on your block, in your town, across the country, everyone's sending that second person to work. Everyone's got two incomes now. And suddenly, all those houses, they're not $30,000 anymore. They're $60,000 because that's what the market can bear when everyone has two incomes. You're not ahead. You're not winning. You're back exactly where you started. Except now, both of you are working full time. The house costs the same percentage of your combined income as it cost of one income before. You haven't gained anything. You've just normalized twice the work for the same result. This is called a positional arms race. Everyone upgrades their weapons, so nobody gains an advantage. Everyone stands up to see the concert better, so nobody sees better, but now everyone's standing. It's rational for each individual family, but collectively disastrous. And it wasn't just housing. It was everything tied to your kids' futures. Good school district, everyone's bidding with two incomes. Prices triple. Safe neighborhood with decent schools, same thing. That house your parents bought near good schools for $30,000 in 1970, it's $400,000 now. And you need two incomes just to qualify for the mortgage. Hell, you need two excellent incomes. The economists studying this, particularly Elizabeth Warren and her daughter Amelia Warren Tyagi, they had a name for it, the two-income trap. You needed two incomes to buy what one income used to buy. You weren't richer, you weren't getting ahead, you were running twice as hard to stay in the same place. And here's the kicker, you were actually more vulnerable than before. Now here's where it gets brutal, where the trap really springs shut. Remember that 1970s family? One income. But here's what they also had, and this is critical. They had a backup plan, an emergency reserve, a safety valve built into the system. Dad loses his job? It's devastating. It's terrifying. The family is scared. But here's what happens. Mom enters the workforce. Maybe she takes a job at the local school. Maybe she does bookkeeping. Maybe she waitresses. It's not glamorous. It's not a career, but it's income, real income, enough to cover groceries and utilities while Dad finds something new. That flexibility, that reserve capacity is what keeps the family from falling off a cliff. The single-income family had margin, had flexibility, had options. That's what financial security actually is. Not how much you make, but how many options you have when things go wrong. Now look at the modern dual-income family. Both parents are already working full-time. That safety net is gone. There is no reserve to tap into. You're already running at maximum capacity. There is no backup. There is no plan B. You're all in, all the time. Someone loses their job, you're immediately in crisis mode, not concerned mode, not tighten the belt mode, crisis mode, because you've built your entire life around two incomes. Your mortgage requires two incomes. Your car payments require two incomes. Your daycare, your insurance, your debt payments, all structured around two incomes. Let's add up what dual-income families are paying that single-income families didn't have to. Daycare, that's $1,200 a month minimum, often more, sometimes way more. Second car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, that's another $600 a month easily. Work clothes for two people, dry cleaning, that's $200. Takeout and convenience food because nobody has time to cook, that's $400. Professional services you used to do yourself, lawn care, house cleaning because you're both working, another $300. We're at $2,700 a month in new expenses just from having two incomes. That's $32,400 a year. So that second $40,000 income, after taxes and work-related expenses, you're clearing maybe $15,000. That's it. You're working full-time for $15,000 of actual increased standard of living. And that's if nothing goes wrong. But things always go wrong. That's life. Someone gets sick, the transmission dies, the water heater explodes, your daughter breaks her arm, the dog needs emergency surgery. Pick any emergency, any unexpected expense. The 1970s family had savings for this. They had margin. They had one parent who could potentially pick up extra hours or a part-time job. What do you have? Credit cards. That's what you have. High-interest debt that turns a $2,000 emergency into a $2,500 burden. Payment plans that stretch your budget even thinner. Borrowing from family. Begging on GoFundMe. These aren't solutions. These are Band-Aids on a systemic problem. The numbers are absolutely insane. Middle-class families today spend 75% of their income on fixed costs, mortgage or rent, car payments, insurance, minimum debt payments, things you cannot negotiate, things that are due whether you have the money or not. In 1970, fixed costs were about 50% of income. That means they had 50% for everything else: food, clothing, entertainment, emergencies, savings. You have 25%, half the breathing room, but you're working 20 as many hours.
Let me put that another way. The 1970s family could lose half their discretionary income and still survive. They'd be uncomfortable, but they'd make it. You're already so tight that losing 10% of your income is catastrophic. You have no margin, no buffer, no room for error. And life is nothing but errors. Here's the nightmare scenario. And it doesn't happen to irresponsible people. It doesn't happen to the lazy or the foolish. It happens to hundreds of thousands of responsible, hard-working, college-educated, middle-class families every single year. One person loses their job, not because they're incompetent, not because they're slacking. Company restructures, industry changes, new management decides to cut costs, boss is a vindictive asshole, economic downturn. Doesn't matter. The reason doesn't matter. The paycheck stops. That's what matters. You've got maybe 3 months of expenses saved if you're lucky. But here's the reality. According to the Federal Reserve, 40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. The median savings account balance is around $5,300. For a family spending $6,000 a month, that's less than 1 month. Most families don't have 3 months. They have 3 weeks. Week 1, you're in denial. This is temporary. You'll find something. You're qualified, experienced, hardworking. Someone will hire you. You start sending out applications, updating LinkedIn, calling everyone you know. The bills arrive, you pay them. You have savings, you're fine. Everything's fine. Week 6, the applications aren't turning into interviews. The interviews aren't turning into offers. The savings account is dropping fast, really fast. The mortgage is due again, both car payments, insurance, daycare, health insurance. Oh, God, the health insurance through work is gone. Cobra is $1,800 a month. You do the math. You can't afford it. You can't afford not to have it. You can't afford anything. Month 3, the savings are gone, completely gone. You've been rationing groceries, skipping meals. The kids don't know yet, but they're starting to sense something's wrong. You start using credit cards, not for luxuries, for groceries, for gas, for the electric bill, because you have no choice. The interest rate is 24%. You'll worry about that later. First, you need to survive this month. Month 4, the mortgage is 60 days late. The bank is calling 3 times a day. You stop answering. Your credit score has dropped 150 points. The credit cards are maxed, actually maxed. No available credit left. You're calling your parents, borrowing from friends. Each call is humiliating. Each conversation is admitting you failed, even though you didn't, even though this could happen to anyone. Month 5, you're working part-time at Target. It's something. It's $15 an hour. It's not enough. It's nowhere close to enough.
Your spouse is working 2 jobs now, picking up shifts whenever possible. You're exhausted, they're exhausted, the kids are confused and scared, the marriage is strained. Money problems are the #1 cause of divorce, and now you understand why. And the whole time, everyone's giving you the same useless advice. Just get another job. As if you're not trying, as if you're not sending out 50 applications a week, as if you're not willing to take anything, do anything, work anywhere. You should have saved more. Thanks, helpful. With what money? When 75% went to fixed costs. You must have been living beyond your means. Were you? You had a normal house, 2 reliable cars, nothing fancy, nothing excessive. You were living exactly the way you were supposed to, the way everyone told you to. Month 6, you're looking at foreclosure. The bank has started proceedings. You're going to lose the house you thought you'd raise your kids in, the house in the good school district, the house that required 2 incomes to afford. You might have to move in with family, pack up your life, pull the kids out of school, start over.
This is the 2-income trap at its most vicious. You worked 2 jobs to afford a life. 1 job disappeared. The life disappeared with it, because there was no margin, no buffer, no safety net. You were walking a tightrope, and someone cut it. But foreclosure isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the ripple effects, the dominoes that keep falling long after the initial crisis. Your credit is destroyed, not just bad, demolished. You're looking at 7 to 10 years before it recovers. Want to rent an apartment? Good luck. Landlords run credit checks. Want to get a car loan? The interest rate will be criminal if you can even get approved. Want to get certain jobs? Some employers check credit. Your financial mistake, which wasn't even your fault, now follows you for a decade. The bankruptcy statistics are absolutely staggering. In 1970, most people who filed for bankruptcy fit a certain profile. Poor, uneducated, substance abuse issues, frivolous spending. Today, more than 90% of bankruptcy filers are middle-class families, 2-income households, college-educated, responsible. They pay their bills on time until they can't. And the #1 cause? Medical bills. #2, job loss. #3, divorce, often triggered by financial stress. These aren't irresponsible people. They're people like you, like your neighbors, like the family you see at church or the grocery store. They did everything right. College degree, good job, bought a house they could afford on 2 incomes. Then 1 income disappeared and the whole structure collapsed. And let's talk about what bankruptcy actually means. It means starting over from zero, actually from negative. You lose the house, you probably lose the cars. Your retirement savings might be protected, but you haven't been able to contribute in months anyway. You're in your 40s or 50s, and you're back to square one, renting, rebuilding, hoping there's enough time left to recover before retirement. But let's say you dodge the bullet. Let's say you're one of the lucky ones. Nobody loses their job. Nobody gets seriously ill. You manage to keep both incomes steady for years. You're still trapped. You're just trapped differently. Because here's what nobody talks about: the emotional and psychological bankruptcy of the 2-income trap. The hidden costs that don't show up on spreadsheets. Your kids are in daycare from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., 11 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 55 hours a week someone else is raising your children. You see them for maybe 2 hours before bed, and you're exhausted. Your partner is exhausted. Nobody has energy for homework help, for playing, for just being present. You're physically together, but emotionally absent. Everyone's running on fumes. Weekend comes. Finally, time together, right? Wrong. You're catching up on everything you couldn't do during the week. Groceries, laundry, cleaning, yard work, car maintenance, doctor appointments, errands, life admin. There's an endless list. And underneath all of it, the constant low-grade anxiety that you're one emergency away from disaster. There's no slack in the system, no margin, no let's have a lazy Sunday, no let's just be a family today. Everything is optimized, scheduled, maximized. You're not living, you're surviving, constantly, forever.
And God forbid you have a kid with special needs, ADHD, autism, learning disabilities. They need extra attention, extra appointments, maybe therapy or tutoring, or an aging parent who needs care, doctor visits, help with daily tasks. Maybe they need to move in with you, or a chronic illness, yours, your partner's, your child's, anything that requires time and attention and care. The system assumes you have slack. You don't have slack. The system assumes someone has time. Nobody has time. The system assumes there's a backup. There is no backup. You're already running at maximum capacity trying to keep the basic machinery of life functioning. There's nothing left over for the things that actually matter, the things that make life worth living. The mental health crisis among working parents, this is why. The epidemic of childhood anxiety and depression, this is why. Kids feeling disconnected from parents, this is why. Rising divorce rates, this is why. Suicide rates climbing, this is why. We're not failing as individuals, the system is failing us, and then blaming us for the failure. So what do we do about this? What was the policy response? What did leaders and economists and experts propose when they saw millions of families trapped in this system? Well, we made it easier to go into debt because that's helpful. Credit cards became easier to get. Sign up and get 10,000 bonus points, cash back rewards, 0% APR for 6 months. Great! Now you can go deeper into debt with a smile on your face. Now that emergency car repair doesn't require savings, it just requires a credit card. Problem solved. Except the interest rate after those 6 months is 27%, and now you're paying for that repair for the next 3 years. Housing loans got more creative. Adjustable rate mortgages, interest-only payments, subprime lending, ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets, no problem. Great! Now you can buy that house you absolutely cannot afford. The monthly payment looks manageable, for now, until the rate adjusts. Then it doubles. Then you lose everything. Remember 2008? That wasn't an accident. That was the logical conclusion of using debt as a band-aid for structural economic problems. Student loans exploded into a trillion-dollar crisis because now you need a college degree to compete. Your parents paid for college with a summer job. Tuition was $2,000 a year. Now it's $35,000 per year. That's $140,000 for 4 years, plus room and board, books, fees. You're looking at $200,000 easy. And you're told it's an investment in yourself. So you mortgage your future before you even start working. And here's the beautiful part. That debt is non-dischargeable. Can't get rid of it in bankruptcy, can't refinance it easily. The interest keeps compounding. You'll be 45 years old still paying for a degree you got at 22, still paying for the promise that education would lead to prosperity. Meanwhile, entry-level jobs require a master's degree and 3 years of experience and pay $42,000 a year. The math doesn't math. We normalized side hustles, the gig economy, driving Uber after your day job, delivering food on weekends, selling crafts on Etsy, walking dogs, pet sitting, 3 apps running at once just to make an extra $500 a month. And we rebranded it. We called it entrepreneurial spirit, hustle culture, multiple income streams. We made it sound aspirational.
Let's be clear. Working 3 jobs to afford rent is not entrepreneurship. It's exploitation. It's a systemic failure repackaged as individual choice. You can sleep when you're dead isn't motivational. It's a warning sign that something is deeply broken. We told people to invest in yourself, take online courses, get certifications, build skills, stay competitive, more education, more training, more debt, more time, more pressure. And for what? So you can compete for the same jobs that now require twice the qualifications for the same pay? None of these are solutions. They're coping mechanisms. They're ways to survive inside a broken system, not ways to fix the system. They're band-aids on a hemorrhage, and every band-aid made the underlying problem worse. Let me give you a direct comparison. Same family, same city, same house, different era. 1970, John works as a manager at a manufacturing plant, makes $12,000 a year, decent middle-class income. Mary stays home with the kids. The house cost $24,000. They paid $5,000 down, got a 30-year mortgage at 7%, monthly payment $126. That's 12.6% of John's gross income. Manageable. 2024, John and Mary both work as managers. Combined income $120,000. Decent middle-class income, adjusted for inflation. The same house now costs $450,000. They pay $90,000 down, 20%, get a 30-year mortgage at 7%, monthly payment $2,400. That's 24% of their combined gross income, double the percentage. And that's before property taxes, which have exploded, and insurance, which has tripled. Real housing cost, 35% of gross income. But wait, there's more. 1970 John had a pension, guaranteed retirement income. 2024 John and Mary, they need to contribute to 401ks themselves. That's another 10% of income if they want to retire. 1970 had minimal health care costs. Insurance through work covered everything. 2024, insurance premiums, deductibles, copays, even with employer coverage, that's $12,000 a year, another 10% of income. Daycare for 2 kids, $24,000 a year. That's 20% of their income. Gone, just gone, for the privilege of having both parents work so they can afford the house. Second car payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, $9,000 a year, another 7.5%. Student loans for both John and Mary, $400 a month each. That's $9,600 a year, another 8%. Let's add it up. Housing, 35%, retirement savings, 10%, health care, 10%, daycare, 20%, transportation, 7.5%, student loans, 8%. That's 90.5% of their gross income, before taxes, before food, before utilities, before anything else. The math literally doesn't work. They're underwater before they even start. And that's for a family making $120,000 a year, above median income, doing better than most. If they're drowning, what's happening to families making $70,000, $50,000? They're already gone, underwater, no chance. So what do we learn from all this? What does the two-income trap teach us about economics, about policy, about the lies we've been told?
Lesson 1. More money doesn't always mean more security. Sometimes it just means higher stakes. The two-income trap proved that rising income can actually make you more financially vulnerable, not less. When your fixed costs rise in lockstep with your income, you're not getting ahead, you're just operating at a higher altitude with no parachute. That defies everything we're taught about economics, but it's true. Lesson 2. Fixed costs are the killer. Not the $5 coffee, not the Netflix subscription, not the avocado toast. The mortgage, the car payments, the insurance, the student loans, the non-negotiable expenses that eat 75% of your paycheck before you even think about food. That's what destroys financial security. When your fixed costs are too high, any disruption becomes a catastrophe. A job loss isn't an inconvenience, it's an extinction-level event. The personal finance gurus telling you to skip Starbucks to afford a house, they're either lying or stupid. If you saved that $5 every day for a year, you'd have $1,825. Know what the down payment on a median-priced home is? $80,000. You'd need to skip coffee for 44 years. The math is insulting. Lesson 3. Dual incomes should have been a choice, not a requirement. This is the core of it. When both parents working became mandatory instead of optional, families lost their safety net. The flexibility disappeared. The backup plan vanished. We traded options for obligations. We went from "we could have two incomes if we want" to "we must have two incomes to survive."
That's not progress, that's a trap. Lesson 4. Markets don't work the way textbooks say when you're bidding on fixed goods. Standard economics says more money in the system means everyone can buy more stuff, but that only works when the supply can expand. When you're bidding on limited goods, houses in good school districts, slots at good daycares, access to good neighborhoods, more money just means higher prices. You don't get more houses, you just pay more for the same house. That's not wealth creation, that's wealth redistribution to whoever owns the assets already. Lesson 5. This affects everyone differently, but it affects everyone. Single parents got absolutely destroyed. They were already on one income, now competing in a two-income world with no backup at all. Lower-income families got priced out entirely. Can't afford the down payment, can't qualify for the mortgage, pushed into worse neighborhoods, worse schools, worse opportunities. Middle-class families got squeezed, working harder for less stability. Upper-middle-class families felt successful while drowning in fixed costs and anxiety. Wealthy families, they're fine. They always are. Different symptoms, same disease. The two-income trap didn't just hurt one group, it reshaped the entire economic landscape, and it happened while everyone was being told they were getting richer. Look around right now. The two-income trap didn't go away. It evolved, it mutated, it got worse. Young people are living with their parents into their 30s, not because they're lazy, not because they're entitled, because they're trapped in a worse version of the same trap their parents faced. Entry-level jobs require 3 years of experience. How do you get experience without an entry-level job? You don't, so you work unpaid internships, which you can only do if your parents support you, which means economic opportunity depends on family wealth. Social mobility, dead. Housing costs have outpaced wages by 300% in major cities. Your parents bought a house for 2.5 times their annual income. You need 8 to 10 times your annual income. They saved for 3 years. You need to save for 15, unless you have family money. Then you buy at 25. The wealth gap isn't growing. It's become a chasm.
Student debt is $1.7 trillion nationally. That's trillion with a T. The average borrower owes $37,000, but plenty owe $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 for degrees that lead to jobs paying $45,000 a year. You'll be 50 years old still making payments. You can't buy a house. Student loans kill your debt-to-income ratio. Can't save for retirement. The payments take that money. Can't afford kids? Are you kidding? An entire generation financially crippled before they start. The gig economy expanded from side hustle to primary income for millions. Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, TaskRabbit. No benefits, no security, no sick days, no retirement. You're not an employee, you're an independent contractor, which means all the risk is yours and all the profit is theirs. This isn't innovation. This is Victorian-era labor relations with an app. Healthcare is tied to employment. Lose your job, lose your insurance. Have insurance through work? Great, until you read the deductible. $5,000, $8,000, even $12,000. You're paying $600 a month in premiums plus thousands in deductibles. You have insurance and still can't afford to go to the doctor. Medical bankruptcy is the #1 cause of bankruptcy in America. In America! The wealthiest nation in human history. Families choosing between insulin and rent. That's where we are. Birth rates are plummeting. Millennials and Gen Z are having fewer kids or no kids. Everyone assumes it's because they're selfish or career-focused. Wrong. It's because kids cost $300,000 to raise through age 18. Daycare alone is $15,000 to $30,000 per year. You need a bigger house, bigger car, more income, and you have student loans, credit card debt, no savings, no security. Having kids isn't a choice, it's a financial impossibility for millions. Mental health is cratering. Anxiety, depression, suicide rates climbing, especially among young people. Everyone's on medication or in therapy or both, and experts act confused.
Why is everyone so anxious? Maybe because you're telling them to be grateful for jobs that don't pay enough to live on, to celebrate gig work that offers no security, to bootstrap their way out of systematic economic exclusion. That's not a mental health crisis. That's a rational response to an insane system. And through all of this, productivity has soared. Workers are more educated, more efficient, more productive than ever in human history. Corporate profits are at all-time highs. The stock market keeps hitting records. The GDP grows and grows, but wages are stagnant. Benefits are disappearing. Security is gone. The wealth is being created, it's just not going to the people creating it. The two-income trap evolved into something worse. Now it's the everything trap. You need multiple incomes. You need side hustles. You need to constantly upskill. You need to be always available, always hustling, always grinding. There is no off switch. There is no security. There is only survival mode, forever. So remember that family from 1970? One income, savings, security, time with their kids. They weren't smarter than us. They weren't luckier. They weren't working harder. I mean, are you kidding? We're working ourselves to death. They weren't more responsible with money. We're optimizing every dollar. They weren't better people. The system was just structured differently. And here's the thing. We can structure it differently again. This isn't permanent. This isn't natural law. This is policy choices. This is political decisions. This is how we've chosen to organize our economy and society. We can choose differently. This isn't about going backwards. Women should work if they want to. That's not the point. The point is, nobody should have to work just to afford what one income used to buy. Two incomes should mean more security, more options, more freedom, not less, not trapped, not drowning, more.
We need to restructure the economy so that fixed costs don't eat 75% of income, so that housing is affordable on reasonable incomes, so that healthcare doesn't bankrupt you, so that education doesn't require mortgage-level debt, so that childcare doesn't cost more than college, so that losing one income doesn't mean losing everything. These aren't radical ideas. These are basic requirements for a functioning society. Other developed countries figure this out. Universal health care, subsidized childcare, affordable higher education, strong labor protections, real safety nets. They're not utopias, they have problems, but their citizens aren't going bankrupt from medical bills or drowning in student debt or working 3 jobs to afford rent. The question isn't whether we can afford to fix this. The question is whether we can afford not to. Because right now, we're cannibalizing our future. Families can't afford kids. Young people can't afford houses. Nobody can afford to retire. Mental health is collapsing. Social cohesion is fracturing. This isn't sustainable. Something will break. The only question is whether we fix it before it breaks or after. Right now, we're all running faster and faster just to stay in place. And that's not a life. That's a treadmill. That's a trap. And eventually, everyone falls off. The two-income trap caught us by surprise, but now we know it's there. We understand how it works. We see the mechanism. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to keep pretending this is about personal responsibility? Keep blaming individuals for systemic failures? Keep telling people to work harder when they're already destroying themselves? Or are we going to acknowledge that the system is broken and fix it? That's the choice. That's always been the choice. Because here's what I know. You're not failing. You're not lazy. You're not irresponsible. You're not doing it wrong. You're trapped in a system designed to extract maximum value from you while providing minimum security. And knowing that, really understanding that, is the first step to changing it. The two-income trap is real, but it's not inevitable, and you're not alone in it. Subscribe for more financial truths that nobody wants to talk about, because understanding the trap is the first step to escaping it and building something better.